everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 2 for this news report today. I planned on getting all this into the first video, but I wanted to take time to be able to lay the groundwork for what I was going to be getting to. So instead of 4 videos, there'll probably be 5 videos today. So, alright, I covered this. The Syrian presidency launches Instagram account to post Assad activities and photos. I wanted to try to go in there. I was even willing to create an account, but I guess it's only for smartphones and that, so I'm always behind the curve when it comes to stuff like that. But yeah, so moving on here, Reuters Twitter account hacked apparently by Syrian Electronic Army is suspected of the attack in which cartoons in support of Bashar al-Assad were posted on feed. So basically Reuters was hacked on Tuesday. Says it's the latest victim among global media firms that have been targeted by the campaign, including The Guardian, AP, CBS, Financial Times, The Daily Telegraph, all Zionist rags. It also hacked the account of satirical news site, the one that I cannot stand the most, The Onion, which promptly published a piece called How to Prevent Your Major Media Site from Being Hacked. I hate The Onion mostly because they post stuff that could technically be happening in this crazy world, and they spin it as if it's news, real news. But if you're not aware that that's what they are, they're fake news. They call it satire, but I don't know. I just think it's a waste of time, and it fools a lot of people, including I think that actually fools like presidents and other leaders and stuff who aren't aware of it. That oh, this is just a big joke, Oh, this is just a satire, so this couldn't really happen. This isn't really happening. So it's a nice little psyop spin that they put on it. That's why I can't stand them. Alright, because it's like there's so much disinformation, there's so much misinformation, there's so much propaganda, and it's just like I'm sitting here trying to undo it all, and then you got the fucking Onion out there doing what they're doing, Google disables Press TV YouTube account. So Google has prevented Press TV from accessing its YouTube page since Thursday, causing a large number of viewers and subscribers to contact the channel to find out what's happened. So yeah, Google's been playing a lot of little games lately. And we have Turkey fires on hundreds fleeing Syria on horseback. So we're just talking about Turkey and how they aid these basically foreign mercenaries that have invaded Syria. They like to call it a civil war. But it says here, forces tried to combat smugglers, 1,200 to 2,000 fired on in another incident. So the military opened fire on between 300 and 350 people headed for the border on horseback today, turning them back. In a separate, even larger confrontation, troops fired tear gas and warning shots to disperse a group of almost 2,000 people. Turkey said the people who threw rocks at military vehicles as they approached were believed to be smugglers. So, That's what the Israeli military, the IDF, says when they have kids throwing rocks at them. It's justified to basically mow them down or take them and torture them. So they actually posted signs up now that says, "We know who you are. We'll come find you, kidnap you out of your house." Turkey is increasingly worried about fuel and weapons smuggling from Syria. That's kind of weird because they're having petrol problems and oil problems, and a lot of times these terrorists, just like in other places like Libya and Iraq, these mercenaries that work for the West are actually taking control of the resources. Taking their grain and wheat, their food mills, trying to take their electricity and blow it up, and trying to run their oil business. So I don't know how much truth there is into that. But as far as refugees, Turkey has also reduced the number of refugees that will allow in. 500,000 have already crossed, but tens of thousands more are stuck on the Syrian side. You have to remember from Turkey with love, another Israeli attack on Syria. So no one should be surprised to hear that Israel and Turkey are collaborating together against the Syrians with the aim of tightening the front against Syria. President Obama even traveled to Israel in March of 2013 to directly broker a quick rapprochement between the governments of Israel and Turkey. When the relations were publicly sour, and that's of course to play into the actual people who don't like Israel, between Israel and Turkey, the two countries maintain military and commercial ties. U.S. keeping Egypt on track for Israel, says Senator Graham. So here's another Zionist, almost like Lieberman, who I cannot stand. So it says here that he expressed the Obama regime's concerns over the fallout of the latest turmoil in Egypt for the Israeli regime. If Egypt goes and Israel, surrounded by more and more radical regimes, will regret not doing everything possible to keep Egypt on track as a stable society. So him being a Zionist, truly, that's a complete lie, and he knows that because the Israeli regime thrives off instability and those types of regimes. So, but I guess Obama's going to be sending him and another neocon Zionist, McCain, so we can go over there and reinforce in a bipartisan fashion the message that we have to move to civilian control, that that means corporation control, corporate control, that the military is going to have to do. Remember, the military of Egypt is not a military for any kind of national defense. It's to basically suppress any kind of civil unrest, to make sure that the regime that the West wants, Israel and the U.S., is put into place. Allow the country to have new elections and move towards an inclusive democratic approach. They love using that word, democracy. It's so funny. Obama regime has refused to suspend its annual $1.5 billion aid to Egypt despite condemning the bloody violence in the country. Well, have they condemned? Well, Obama regime officials say no coup in Egypt as of July 25th, and White House on Egypt massacre, no comment. So they have no comment on it, July 28th. I like how they're using Rand Paul using him for the drones, and he's introduced a measure that would end U.S. aid to Egypt. I don't know why people would trust this individual. He's just not trustworthy in my eyes. So I could be wrong, but it says here. Graham said, if you cut off aid, that's a destabilizing event, while a vote for aid would give people the impression everything's fine. It's just the impression that counts, right? While the military is mowing down Morsi supporters. Senate kills effort to cut off aid to Egypt. So the Senate Wednesday resoundingly rejected 86-13 an effort by Senator Rand Paul to cut off American aid, most of the military to Egypt. So see, that's what he's there for, just to look good for the next presidency. Police ordered to break up pro-Morsi protests. Islamists remain defiant. So supposedly this was the first Democratic elected person. Well, see, that's not how it's supposed to work. The West, they didn't like that. They didn't like what he wasn't hardline against Syria enough, and probably for other reasons as well. So they pulled their puppet out. They gave him a nice little kind of Muslim Brotherhood, which is a Western proxy organization, to make it seem like he was really a hardline Islamist. But it says here, Egypt's interim government said on Wednesday that pro-Muslim Brotherhood sit-ins in Cairo are a threat to national security and unacceptable. They vowed to continue with the protests despite the anticipated crackdown. They're going to take all measures necessary to confront these risks and put an end to them. And they're at least in the Western eyes, in the Western news media, they're saying what? They're doing a good job, right? In Egypt, love for Sisi overshadows protesters' deaths. So adoration of Egypt's military chief and deep hatred of the Muslim Brotherhood leaves many ambivalent about the news of at least 74 killed in the weekend clashes. Egypt restores feared secret police units. Military-backed government seems to have no intent of reforming practices that characterize both Mubarak and Morsi eras. So there you go. Blood everywhere, mowing down people. But hey, a cult of personality. Egypt's military chief attracts personality cult after he ousted Islamist president in coup. Well, Obama said it wasn't a coup. And speaking of funding terrorists and mercenaries and propping up dictatorships and governments by the West and by the Zionists, we have this billions in U.S. aid to Afghanistan at risk, says a report. There's a growing gap between policy, reality in Afghanistan. So they say, like to build this up always, less than 18 months before all foreign combat troops are to leave in Afghanistan, there are still billions of U.S. tax dollars at risk of being wasted. Oh, they care about waste now, about U.S. tax dollars while they're funding terrorists to shop at little marts in Syria while they're occupying a sovereign nation. Yeah, now they're worried about waste, huh? That's interesting, man. But it says here they're actually, at worst, funneling to the insurgents and terrorists. Man, dude. Bahraini activists arrested after government calls for tough measures against protesters. So again, they talk about brutal dictatorships in Syria and evil dictators and oppressive regimes. Yet they totally ignore the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia or Bahrain, right? Nothing. No talk about it. A prominent Bahraini rights activist and blogger was arrested just days after the government warned of implementing tougher measures against anti-government protesters in the Gulf Kingdom. London-based Bahraini political activist journalist basically said, arrest of blogger Mohammed Hassan is yet another criminal act by Bahrain's dynastic dictatorship. Impossible to reform dictatorship. Roadside bomb explodes near National Guard patrol in Tunis. No casualties. I was talking about this in the last report on Monday about Tunisia, along with Saudi Arabia. I don't know if this is planned or if this is coming from grassroots, or a lot of times it's coming from grassroots, like high gas prices or something like that, or food prices, and then of course combined with co-opting by outside interests to foment unrest. A roadside bomb had, and steer it into where they get their dictatorship, right, to exploit resources and here we go. A roadside bomb has gone off near the Tunisian capital exactly at a time when National Guard was patrolling the area. So it makes you wonder, false flag? So as recently as last week, a police officer was injured after a bomb planted under a car exploded in northern Tunisia. At least 8 Tunisian soldiers were found dead with their throats cut following an attack by militants in a mountainous region known as Mount Chambi, southwest of the capital near Algeria. Tunisian officials lay the blame on Salafi terrorist groups. Tunisia Troika leads talks to form a new unity government. So just a few hours after close sources to this mosaic foreign minister announced Ennahda's intention of forming a new unity government, the General Secretary of CPR, Mr. Ahmed Dami, announced his party is likely to participate in the newly formed government. And here you go, you have this Khamenei holding talks with Bahi Case Sebesi, or Sepsi. I typed in a little quick search of him, and he seems like he's been entrenched in the politics for a while. Then I did a Hamani, and I guess basically he said here that he's Tunisian communist. He spoke for the Tunisian Workers' Communist Party and a former editor of the party news organ. So he was imprisoned and tortured for his political activism against the Zain el Abidine Ben Ali dictatorship. So then you have editor jailed for 7 years and sentenced to 600 lashes after starting Free Saudi Liberals website. I even saw on Raw Story they said that a feminist. So. But this Badawi was accused of cybercrime and disobeying his father. He was set up a website, Free Saudi Liberals, to disclose the role of religion. Judge also ordered that the site be closed down. That individual, Hamani, that I just talked about, the communist, he was an atheist. So he started the Free Saudi Liberals website to discuss the role of religion in Saudi Arabia. He's been held since June 2012. So again, is this coming from the grassroots, or is this again co-opting? But one thing that's true in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and other places like Bahrain and that is there is no freedom of opinion of expression. See, in the Western democracies, they call democracies, they're not really democracies, they're corporate dictatorships. Judicial system and court system is there to basically protect and shield the corporations and corporate interests from the people. Though, of course, they always say it's in the name of the people. But we have engineered consent here in these, quote, developed first world countries, democratic nations, where they actually shape people's opinions so people don't have thoughts of their own. That's how they herd the masses. Just shop and, entertain and consume, and that's how they're able to, they don't care what they say because their opinions aren't really of their own. So. But when in other places where your opinion may actually come from you, from your heart, from your soul, from your morals and principles, that could be dangerous. Seeing this left-leaning going on, though, in the Islamic world, Morocco's Islamists set for power deal with center-right, so the ruling Islamists look set to form a new coalition government with a liberal party after their previous conservative partners walked out in a row centered on cuts to fuel and food subsidies. Interesting, the Islamist Justice and Development Party said that these cuts were hurting the poor and reducing subsidies too fast. And they're supposedly left liberals. I don't know, go figure. I don't know what that means out there, but remember we just covered Kuwaiti elections. Shia candidates suffer at the polls. So the Kuwait's minority Shia have lost more than half of their seats. And it says here, liberal and tribal groups have emerged the main winner. Again, this individual, Rouhani in Iran, who ousted Ahmadinejad in the recent elections, was also considered kind of more liberal. So, Rouhani, Iran president-elect, criticizes Ahmadinejad for misleading economic data. The first thing I did was like, what the hell is he talking about? Isn't he aware of the sanctions and everything that they're doing to squeeze their economy? And then I saw this, Iran's president's inner circle has a Western accent. Behind closed doors, the group lugging spreadsheets, notes, and policy papers also carried something new into the mix, an array of degrees from Western universities. Like they say, and I kind of somewhat agree with the statement, studying in the West doesn't mean you make concessions to the West. Profile Pakistan's President Hussein. He's a businessman who was removed after the military coup of Musharraf in '99. Thank you.